I'm gonna go ahead and get started. And first of all, I had a brief conversation with Todd. I guess it was a couple of weeks ago now. Shared the information with him, and based on what he saw, as well as our history of working together. And again, I see a couple of familiar faces on the screen here. We decided to present to the greater audience and see, frankly, if there's an opportunity to work together. I think it's important to know the foundation of our company. We started about 4 years ago, initially as a software vendor, based on, sadly, a workplace accident. So our founder, his name is Josh Butler. His father was permanently disabled in a workplace accident on a construction site. And Josh, at the time, was working in the autonomous driving industry, utilizing computer vision and AI to help build self-driving cars. And he took a step back after that accident and basically said, in today's world, how can this type of accident happen? And what can I do, given my background, to build technology to help make it not happen anymore? And so he started CompScience, and ultimately, we utilize that same computer vision and artificial intelligence, along with predictive analytics, to simply identify and quantify workplace exposure better, and ultimately surface that information back to the client so that we can eliminate those exposures, or at least greatly reduce those exposures at the client, make them safer, which in turn drives down their total cost of risk. So as an agent, this is a wedge. This is an opportunity to get the opposing agent fired. This is going to help you insulate some of your key renewals. What you're going to find today is it's not for every account. This is not a wearable device. This isn't something that the employee places on their arm. Rather, we're utilizing existing video footage. So we're targeting businesses that have cameras already in place, and we use that existing video footage to apply our technology and find that exposure. If my name rings a bell, some of you may know me from my years on the carrier side. I was an executive at Accident Fund up until March of 2020. And so I've worked with Brown & Brown for years, Todd, Tyler, and the team to help drive revenue on the carrier side. And I'm in a position now to help you be successful going forward on the agency side as well. And so our most successful agents really share a couple of similar traits. They've grown tired of talking about service as well as price. They're passionate about delivering value to their clients. They want something unique to talk about and to deliver to those clients. And they're embracing technology. They're a bit forward thinking, and they see technology as a way, not the sole way, but a way to help deliver value to their clients. And you can see on the screen what just a handful of our agents have to say about it. I know from my years, hang on just a second. Oh, someone's asking for somebody to be entered real quick. So hang on just a second. Let me see. Middle. Okay. So now we've got everyone joined, hopefully. And so for those that just joined, I am recording this. So we will have a video version of this available after the discussion. But when I was on the carrier side at Accident Fund, I was responsible for both revenue generation and business development, as well as loss control. And so I saw firsthand through my visits with loss control that there's really three main limitations to it. One, they're human, so they can't physically observe everything. They're there maybe once or twice a year, a couple hours at a time. They can't simply see everything that the employer has in terms of risk. And frankly, the people are on their best behavior when they're there. Typically, that loss control consultant's not counting things. They're not counting waste bands or forklift operations. And so if you can't quantify the exposure, you can't quantify or measure the improvement from one visit to the next. Because we're using that video technology, We can see a lot more information. We have 50 to 100 hours of video footage on average, and we can actually quantify the exposure. So that combination of computer vision and AI pours through that video footage and actually extracts every sequence or every exposure that it uncovers so that we have a numerical representation of it as well. As a result, you're going to have insights for better loss control. We're going to help reduce injuries, help reduce exposure. That ultimately is going to lead to a lower total cost of risk. And all the client has to do is simply upload a sampling of that video footage twice a year, once at the beginning of the policy term and once about 6 or 7 months later. And as a result of that, we are going to identify and quantify that exposure. And then our team of loss control consultants, as well as ergonomists, are going to work with them, and we'll involve the agency as much or as little as you want to be involved to help remediate what we found during that analysis. So on the screen right now, and I should tell you that if you have any questions or want me to stop at any point, just simply interrupt. Just interrupt, raise your hand, ask the question. Otherwise, I'll continue to go through. But on the screen is a really good example of how we implement our technology. So this is an existing client of ours where they had historically a number of slips and falls at their facility. Once they uploaded their video footage to us, our technology used heat maps to draw attention to frequency and severity. We actually counted the number of instances. So in this case, we had nearly 600 times in a 2-week period that we were able to count employees hopping over the conveyor system. And this is the action that was actually leading to those slip and falls at the facility. We came back to this client with 2 recommendations. One, tell your employees to stop. It's free and easy. Secondly, install a lift gate, which you see here in the bottom right. That second period, all they had done is tell their employees to stop, and it helped, nearly a 50% improvement. But by the third analysis of their data, they installed the lift gate, and you can see essentially we have engineered that exposure out of that company. So the process is identify, quantify, remediate, and remeasure at a later date so that you can see how that improvement progressed. And that's a great conversation piece for the carrier upon renewal. We can actually quantify that improvement to help drive better pricing at renewal. As a result, you can see we just launched our MGA in March. So we have nationwide paper for that backed by Swiss Re. In all of our states, we have our wholesale operation available as well, where we have AmTrust, Hartford, and CompScience paper available to us. And so simply put, we have combined the technology with a traditional work comp policy. So you would submit business to us as you would a wholesaler or an MGA. We quote, bind, issue the process, the policy, and then ultimately work with the client to get that video footage sampling. You can see on the screen just a couple of examples of our clientele, typically mid to large market accounts that are in that 4-wall exposure space, or at least have cameras in their facility or on their premises. And you can see by the screen, we've got a track record of reducing that exposure. And even Swiss Re did an actuarial analysis, and their study reveals that we can reduce claims up to 23%. The process for the client, very straightforward. After we quote, bind, issue the policy, they upload 1 or 2 weeks worth of their video footage, typically 50 to 100 hours of total video time. We then apply our computer vision and AI to identify those exposures, and you can see some sampling of that on the screen as I chat about it. And then we're going to surface those results to the client with two pieces of feedback. One is a risk report that's somewhat synonymous with a loss control report you'd get from a carrier, and the second is access to an online app, which basically provides a bit of a dashboard to the client. I'm bringing up our sample footage as we speak. So it's a dashboard of their exposures based on what we uncovered. And every time they upload another round of video footage, we append it so they can see all of their footage over time. And then we provide out to the right some key videos that we uncovered. So these can be used for toolbox talks, new employee training and onboarding, employee training specific to some inherent risks that we found, OSHA audits. There's a number of utilizations for the technology once we provide the data back to them. But this, like I said, is an app that they all have access to, and you as the agent, if you want, can also have access to this as well. You can be as much or as little involved as you would like in the process. But once we do that, our technology that we utilize essentially uncovers about 90% of workplace accidents. So perfect example is somebody hops in their car to go on a sales call, gets in an accident. We don't have that video footage, so that would be a perfect example of something that happens off premises that we can't detect via that video footage. But otherwise, most of the main exposures that you would see, we have detectors that would uncover it. The most difficult exposure to uncover is ergonomic issues, because one, there's no real OSHA guidelines for ergonomic processes or risks, and it's really hard to detect. I mean, certainly when the employee pulls their muscle, that is the event where they got hurt, but it's typically a culmination of a lot of things that have happened throughout their career or on the job, so to speak. But in that case, we have the ability through our technology to uncover these ergonomic incidents. And so in this case, this is a very large window manufacturer here in the US. And the footage revealed through a heat map that we've got an issue at this part of the company. We go to the video footage, and sadly, these employees have to bend over frequently throughout the day to build these windows. We quantified it. We counted nearly 6,000 waste bends a week at this employer. And our recommendation back to them was simply take those flat tables and invert them. So now the employee in the bottom right, he can build this window at a much safer, neutral, more comfortable body position than previously done hunched over. And so as a result, we saw nearly a 60% reduction in those waist bends. And you can see we've got a little bit of work to do at this employer to change out the remaining flat tables to these inverted or vertical tables as well. So it's that common theme of identify, quantify, and then solution for them. So again, our staff of ergonomists as well as loss control consultants will work with them to identify and implement solutions that help lead to those reduced losses. The first of two deliverables is, again, a risk report. It's going to utilize the heat maps that we talked about. We'll use pictures where appropriate. We'll embed links to video footage if we want to draw their attention to a specific incident that we uncovered. And then we utilize some data that we get from Swiss Re, where we're able to benchmark their key drivers of losses versus their industry counterparts. So it's a really nice high-level analysis of where they're performing better or worse versus their industry counterparts. So again, we're trying to provide that value in some of the financial side of things as well as the safety side of things. So with that, we already talked about the second deliverable, which is access to that online app. And again, anyone at the company that has a role in workplace safety can get access to that online app. So there's unlimited users, including agency personnel, if you would like to have access. And then the key states where we're providing this. So certainly here in Michigan, it's a core state for us. When we launched our MGA states, we targeted 10 states initially. Those 10 states are in blue. In the green states, we have our wholesale operation available. So if you come to me with a Wisconsin risk, we'll drive it through our wholesale operation. If you come to me with a Michigan opportunity, we're going to likely place it in our MGA. We have the software available worldwide. So if you've got a client that's in a captive, they're self-insured, they really love accident fund or whomever their existing carrier is, but they want access and they see value in the technology, we can sell the software as a service to anyone, anywhere in the world, and we pay the agent a 20% commission on any software sale. Otherwise, if we quote, bind, issue the policy, you'll see on the next screen, we pay competitive commissions. And typically, we're having the most success on the on the industries that you see on the screen. We can dip down to 50,000, but ideally $100,000 accounts and above. And frankly, I'm just being honest. If you've got a clean $50,000 account, you're going to have a dozen carriers fawning over that account. Yes, we can work with them, but we become just a commodity to them. We're just another premium figure to them. But if they've got some losses, if their mod is headed in the wrong direction, or they're already a debit mod, and you want to deliver value and drive down their cost of insurance, that is where we're having the most success. And so, bring us those types of accounts, and let us show you what we can do. From a commission standpoint, we're going to typically pay 8 to 10%. So I know from my accident fund days, we typically paid 9%. Every now and then we ran some specials. So it's not like you're taking a haircut. Yes, I know workers' comp is competitive. Yes, I know that everyone has some elevated commissions from time to time. And so we're doing the same. So we're going to pay a standard 8 to 10% commission depending on the carrier. Right now, we've got an incentive through 7/1, where if it goes through our MGA, we're going to pay 15%. If it goes through our wholesale operation, we'll pay 12%. And again, we're going to pay 20% commission on that software sale. So a good example of where that can be utilized is on a midterm AOR. So you go out, you get the AOR, now you're working for free until renewal. One of the things that our agents are doing is they're introducing this technology through the SaaS channel to the client. And so we demo the platform to them. They like what they see, and we can provide an interim solution where we sell the software as a service, pay you the commission. So now you've earned a little money, and then at renewal, you can convert that software client to a traditional work comp and show them how you've eliminated that cost, because when we write the work comp, they don't have to pay anything for the technology. The only time they pay for the technology is if it's through the software as a service. And then finally, it's pretty simple and straightforward to work with us. You just send a submission to submissions@CompScience.com, include the Accord app, mod worksheet, and the loss runs. If possible, if you can give us a target premium that you would like us to get to, frankly, that eliminates a lot of time for us to go back and forth. If we can get a litmus test with our carriers, or if we're pricing it and we can't get close, we'll tell you that right away so that you can, continue on. But if we can get a target premium up front, that tells us where we need to get, if not even better. Certainly don't want to leave money on the table, and you don't want to leave commissions on the table, but that helps us eliminate pretty quickly if we can't get to that target pricing. Otherwise, we're having a ton of success. This is a perfect wedge. And, with my career on the carrier side, mostly in the work comp space, frankly, I jumped at the chance to join CompScience last summer. I see tremendous value in what we're doing, and it's delivering results to our clients. We're seeing a ton of improvement from workplace safety as well as that claims. And to our agents, it's providing, something different to talk about with your clients. It's a competitive advantage for you. And, Tyler, to your point early in the conversation, it can be pretty tough out there. And hopefully you all see this as a tool to drive a wedge and get that other agent fired. So with that's kind of the high level overview of our technology. Todd, I see you joined as well. Is there any questions or any feedback that you have for me? And I'm happy to answer anything that you have.
Mike, obviously I've seen this a couple times. I mean, I think it's great. And you may have hit this before I was able to log in.
Of course.
For a client that does not have that infrastructure.
Yep.
Do you have partners that you can refer them to? Is there some kind of process that we would go through to say, hey, listen, let's get you hooked up with XYZ video surveillance company and see how much it will cost you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we've got a couple of things. We don't sell cameras. We don't install cameras. We would prefer camera systems already in place during the quote bind issue process. But we're willing and able to make our quote subject to the implementation of cameras. You know, I'll use loosely ASAP. I'm not going to give a hard deadline, because at the end of the day, you know, they're engaged in workplace safety. We can always augment the lack of cameras with a remote inspection. So to your question, even though we don't install or sell the cameras, we can make recommendations to them. And so frankly, it's going to be based on whether they want it for security purposes, for employee theft purposes, if they want to utilize the cameras for you know, efficiency purposes, because some of those cameras and software have different features and benefits. So we can augment those recommendations based on, you know, a couple of questions from the client. If in the meantime they still need, you know, access to our recommendations, or in the construction vertical where maybe they've got some job sites where they don't have cameras in place, we have technology that we're using in that space where we basically, our loss control team sends a text to an employee, typically a supervisor or a safety manager of the employer, and that text contains a link, and that link, you don't have to download anything, but what that link does is it's called the Blitz app, and it converts their cell phone to a remote camera for our loss control team. And so now that employee takes his camera and he walks us around the job site, and we're looking for trench boxes or fall protection or lockout, tagout, whatever their business is. We're going to look for those dangers and hazards that typically come along with that type of exposure. When that visit is all done, you know, the employee signs off, you know, they hit stop, whatever the button says, and that whole session was recorded on our end. And what we do is we create a small loss control report based on that video footage and provide that back to the client. And we do that 4 times a year, once a quarter. So we've got a remote inspection tool where needed if they don't have cameras or have offsite work that's done, like in a construction setting. Otherwise, wherever they have fixed cameras or the ability to upload, you know, that camera footage to us, we can have the traditional technology in place where it concludes the computer vision and AI. Great question.
Got it. That's great.
Yep. And I did get a question in through the meeting chat asking whether or not the slide deck will be sent to you. Yes, I'm going to send everyone the slide deck, the video recording, a couple of one-pagers that we typically provide our agents, and some marketing collateral that we have on our website. So I'll send the group that was registered for the call that information. If there's others that couldn't make it, simply share it as you see fit, Todd, and anyone else on the call.
Thanks, Mike. That's awesome.
You bet. Any other questions or feedback?
I'll add one more too here, Mike, because
Yeah.
I can think of one example. In fact, Mike Rutkowski was texting me about it during this presentation. If we have a specific case that is we want to tee up, do you do this demo with them, or I mean, do you have a version of this that you can walk them through, or how do you want to approach that?
Yeah, no, no, the preference would be to do a live demo. So the way it works really smoothly with our agents that are having the most success, we would have you submit submit the account to us so we can start the quoting process. If it looks like we can write the account, we're going to be competitive, the next step would be to have you invite that client to a demo. And so it would be the producer, the client, typically the CFO, anyone that could be a supporter or a naysayer of this solution. We want them on the call so we can get all the questions on the table. But we run through about a 15-minute version of this that's client-centric, so we remove commissions and licensing and all the superfluous stuff. So I'll do the demo to the client, and then they can ask any questions they want. And that process seems to work really well because this, no one else is doing what we're doing. And so, typically your clients and prospects haven't heard of this. And so this is, as you can tell from this demo, it's a bit of a visual feel. So they need to see it and understand it. and overcome any obstacles that they have. And then we have a ton of success from that demo, then plowing forward with, getting you a bindable quote and, onboarding the client. So that demo up front, I'm happy to do those live with the client. And then the only other thing we need from the client at some point is we need to understand what is their video management software. So it's not the name on the camera, it's the video management software that all of those cameras feed down into. That is the technology that they would use to upload their video footage to us. So we just need an IT contact at some point from you during that quote bind issue process. We'll get with the IT person, make sure that the camera system's compatible, the resolutions, at a high enough rate for us. There's a few other things that we get from them, but that is essentially the only difference between our process and the standard submission process to any other, wholesaler or program administrator out there.
Mike, you mentioned that in Michigan, we would use, you would go through an MGA for the quote bind process.
Yep.
Is there multiple carriers or specific carrier?
Yeah, so we've in our MGA, we have partnered with Nationwide. So it's their programs area within Nationwide. So it's their paper, their claims professionals, their audit team. We outsource all of the services other than underwriting and loss control to them. Now, at some point on a large enough account or a complex enough account, they might want to get their own eyes on the account through loss control. Otherwise, we're taking care of the underwriting and taking care of any sort of pre-inspect that might be needed based on the size and complexity of the account. But Nationwide is the paper for the MGA, and for the wholesale, we have Hartford, AmTrust, and CompWest. CompWest is a California company of accident fund, and so they only write business in California. But outside of California, we also have AmTrust and Hartford on the wholesale side.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Any others?
Mike, I think Jim had a question in the chat box there. Let's see. About just a little more information on the AI that you're being used, and what is it? I guess what's some more information on how it's being utilized?
Yeah, so if you think about that video footage, no one at the employer wants to sit there and watch video footage of what the employees do or don't do during the day. And frankly, we can't afford to pay our employees to sit and watch 50 or 100 or 200 hours of video footage. So instead, what happens is we've built what are called detectors, and these detectors look for somebody bending over, or they look for a forklift driving around with its blades up instead of close to the ground. It looks for somebody climbing under or climbing over something. So there's 50 of these various detectors, and they fall into I'm going to bring it back up on the screen because I kind of jumped over it quickly. But they fall into these 5 categories. And so ultimately, once they upload that video footage, and I'm going to go to the screen that has kind of a live feed, when that client uploads 50 to 100 hours of footage, or plus or minus, we then apply computer vision as well as artificial intelligence. So the combination of those two things are what's going out, and in this case, it's putting a red box around somebody carrying something. In this case, it's a pallet jack almost hitting an employee. This is a person who climbed under a trailer, so they've got a caught in or between wrist. This employee falls. So that's the computer vision. That's the artificial intelligence. It's utilizing that information to quickly identify and quantify the exposure. And then we use a predictive analytics as well to more or less extrapolate this and identify where something might happen in the future. Whereas traditional loss control is looking in the rearview mirror. They simply look at loss runs and say, well, you had 5 slip and falls. Let's educate them on housekeeping and cleaning up liquid spills quickly. We're actually seeing employees aren't just falling. They're falling because they're climbing over conveyor systems, or they're slipping, on, maybe an uneven surface or what have you. So it's much better information, but it's all done through computer vision, which is drawing the boxes that you see around things. and artificial intelligence is kind of weeding through, separating what are near misses and what's really kind of not really a workplace exposure, so to speak. I want to make it crystal clear though, so I don't see the question asked, but at some point someone says, well, what about personal identifiable information? I can assure you, we are compliant in all 50 states. Illinois has the toughest biometric laws. We're compliant everywhere. We do not get or receive or track personal identifiable information. It's a little hard to tell on these video snippets, but we pixelate the employees' faces. So, you know, unless they only have one forklift operator or they can tell by, you know, perhaps the body image, it's not meant to be a gotcha moment for any specific employee. Rather, it's to draw attention to exposure and to build training and solutions around how to get rid of it. But we do not capture any personal identifiable information. And what I would recommend, and, you know, and Todd, you've heard me say this as well when we talked previously, is, you know, take a look at your book, you know, utilize your agency management reports, find $50,000 accounts and above in the industries that we target, look out the next 120 days and submit them, send them to us. The app, the loss runs, the mod worksheet, let us show you what we can do. Let us earn your business. You're going to see that we can provide you a competitive quote. We pay competitive commissions, and we're going to deliver better value to you than what you'll get from your traditional carrier loss control personnel.
Fantastic.
Awesome. I appreciate everyone's time. Pleasure to meet you all virtually. To the familiar faces, great to chat with you again. And as I mentioned, I will send you all of this information, including the recording. And if you have any questions, reach out to me. You'll have my contact information in the meeting. If you want me to set up a demo with a client or a prospect, get a hold of me. My email will contain a link to my calendar. You can book it as you see fit, and you know, let's find a way to write some business together.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, everyone. All right, take care. Be well, all.
Yeah.